that this time of year can be hard for folks. There's a lot of strong emotions associated with the holiday season, and not all of them are good. I think that even the most joyous of times can be tinged by sadness, and that's really the richness of human emotion. We contain complexities, and while the holidays don't necessarily fill me with a sense of dread in the way that might for some, I do find myself a bit wistful at this time of year. You might know, if you know me, that I'm sort of simultaneously the oldest and the middle child in my family. Prior to meeting and marrying my mom, my dad had two children from his first marriage, my older sister Anne and my older brother Clark, the oldest. I should say that I have a great relationship with Anne, and I always have, but it was always a bit different with her than it was with Clark. Both Anne and Clark were basically adults when I was a kid, so I had a different relationship with them than I do with my younger sister Katie. Anne didn't live with us for a lot of my early childhood. Clark did. And, well, to say that I worship Clark is kind of an understatement. It kind of undersells it. Clark was cool. He had, from what I remember, great tastes in music and really bizarre tastes in food. He was a total ladies' man. I was totally his little wingman as a toddler, and he completely doted on me. I have all these little memories, little snippets, really, of him taking me fishing. We never caught anything. Or hunting. We weren't allowed to shoot anything anyhow. Or just to the arcade or to the convenience store just around town. The guy completely spoiled me. You've no doubt heard me getting incredibly excited over Star Wars. I mentioned it earlier on in the show, and you've heard my stories of straight up crying watching The Force Awakens. That's because when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, Clark showed me A New Hope for the first time. The man was my hero, and, well, if you know me, you probably know what happens next in the story. But first, a little digression. About 6 years ago, I was living in the valley with my parents while I was figuring out what to do next. To be honest, I was completely spinning my wheels, and I was separated from most of my friends. It wasn't the best time in my life. That having been said, I had made a few friends through my job, and I was out for my usual Friday night routine, which was going to the one bar in town for the one night that mattered, which was karaoke. It was a weekly routine for me, going out for a few soda pops, as it were, singing a few tunes. I was a regular for about 18 months at that point, so the staff knew me. They knew my usual drink order, and I usually shot the shit with the bouncers and the bartenders pretty comfortably. This particular Friday was like any other. I went in, I ordered a beer, caught up with a few friends, chatted with the karaoke host before the show began, and I slipped out for a quick smoke. While I was out there, this older man, probably in his mid to late 60s, stumbled out behind me. He had been there playing the VLTs for most of the afternoon. He was drunk. Like capital D drunk. Drunk in italics drunk. And his drunk ass was stumbling towards the parking lot. Now, I took it upon myself to check in with him to make sure that he wasn't about to do something stupid. Offered him a cigarette. We chatted a bit, and he assured me he was just waiting for a cab. The one car in town that acted as a taxi service, by the way. So he was going to wait for a cab. He wasn't going to do anything dumb. So I bid him a good night, and I went in to my friends and to my tunes. It was about an hour later. I'd sung Turn the Page, Metallica version, excellent. And I returned to the outside and was having a chat with one of the bouncers while I was having another smoke. And lo and behold, the old man from earlier was still there, and he had started to stumble towards his car. I signaled to the bouncer, a guy named Jason, that I was pretty sure he was going to try and drive off, and he and I jogged over as we started to see a 94 Dodge Caravan start to pull out of the spot. We convinced the old man to get out of his car. I took his keys to the bar, and Jason drove him home. Once he returned, Jason came over to me, and he thanked me for my help. I told him it was no problem, and based on the experience that I had had with drunk driving, I was happy to oblige. He told me that he had also lost somebody close to him when a couple of his friends got behind the wheel drunk. We sat there, and we swapped stories. I told Jason that it had been funny. Clark had really been on my mind more often than it normally was. It had been Heartache Tonight by the Eagles playing in the store earlier that week that had really had him on my mind lately. And then Jason looked me dead in the eye and he said, "Wait, Clark Dulong?" So I tell this story not only because it's about the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, but also to really drive home a point. You're someone to a lot of people. Clark had been helping Jason with yard work just that day, just before he went out for the last time. They were close friends, and he had had a profound impact on Jason. Clark was my hero. He's my older brother. He's a constant in my life to this day, and it was over 20 years ago that he passed. Listen, I know this is a heavy message on Christmas Day. I don't mean to be a downer, but I always make it a point to remind people of the importance of playing it smart and safe each holiday season. Arrange transportation. Do not drink and drive. And you know what? That's going to do it for the Christmas episode. Get back to sort of the normal nonsense next week. And in 2018. Yikes. Anybody else feel like this year just completely blew by? I mean, it might just be me. I had a really great year, guys. Really fantastic starting this podcast, going back to school. Of course, I've been really, really lucky and blessed to have a fantastic partner, my girlfriend. And, I think for all the troubles that 2017 brought forward, it also was just a really, really great year across the board. So I hope that you have a really happy and healthy holiday season. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. And I'm going to see you in the new year. So I'm going to leave it here. So for John Dulong, I'm John Dulong, and should old acquaintance be forgot. See you next year. See, because the next episode is in 2018. I'm hilarious.